retinoscopy, that is called the dynamic retinoscopy. So that gives us an idea of how much lag of accommodation the patient is having, whether the patient is having a higher lag of accommodation or a lead of accommodation, that we have to find out. So in the MEM retinoscopy, if we are getting around like in the plus 0.5 to plus 0.75 means that is normal. So anything higher than plus 0.75 is a higher lag of accommodation. Anything lower than plus 0.5 is a lead of accommodation, right? So in case of lead of accommodation, so we can actually understand that if there is a lead of accommodation, that means there may be any chances of accommodative excess. If there is a higher lag of accommodation, that means there may be a chances of accommodative insufficiency, right? Also another test we do, so also we have got previously the amplitude of accommodation, so we correlate with those findings. So we correlate with the findings of the accommodation, all the tests, MEM retinoscopy, we are correlating with the findings to find out what the patient is having. Also, we correlate and see that whether the NRA PRA is normal or not. That also is very important to find out whether the NRA or PRA is normal or not. So NRA PRA, NRA the negative relative accommodation. So amount of like NRA means the how much the patient can relax accommodation, maximum level to which the patient can relax accommodation, and PR is the how much level to how much the patient can stimulate the accommodation, right? So so NRA PRA, amplitude of accommodation, and the MEM retinoscopy, all these things we correlate with each other to find out whether there is any accommodative anomalies, right? Also, we can do the accommodative facility testing to find out whether there is any accommodative infacility. So for normally for accommodative excess, there will be signs like ocular signs, maybe like that of your, for accommodative excess the amplitude of accommodation may be higher, okay, the PRA may be higher, positive relative accommodation may be higher, NRA value may be low, okay, there may be a lead of accommodation in case of dynamic retinoscopy, right? So these may be the symptoms for accommodative excess. For accommodative insufficiency, we can get a higher lag of accommodation in the dynamic retinoscopy, right? We can get a low PRA and high NRA, or low PRA will be fine. Low PRA we can get it. In dynamic retinoscopy, what we'll be getting? We are getting a higher lag of accommodation, and amplitude of accommodation will be low in case of accommodative insufficiency, right? But in accommodative, to test accommodative facility, basically we are using the accommodative flippers. So how to select the accommodative flippers? What value of accommodative flippers we should select? According to the NRA PRA reading, we should select the value of accommodative flippers, like whether to go for a plus minus 1 or a plus minus 1.5 or a plus minus 2. We will decide on the value of NRA and PRA, right? So for plus minus 1, there should be number of cycles maybe around 10 to 12. Plus minus 1.5, 7 to 8 cycles maybe. Plus minus 2, there may be 4 to 5 cycles. So we'll correlate with these normal values. So if you have selected a plus minus 2 flipper, so suppose the NRA is around plus 3 and PR is around minus 3. So we can easily select a plus minus 2 flipper for the patient. So patient can easily clear the flipper lenses, right? So that time what is what is the benefit? So we can actually we can actually correlate the response with the normal values of the plus minus 2 flippers, right? So this way we will correlate with the normal values, because for plus minus 2 there will be some the normal, the CPM, the amount, the cycles per minute should be lesser compared to a plus minus 1.5 or a plus minus 1, right? So plus minus 1 maybe around 10 to 12 cycles is a normal. So we can see whether the patient can clear so many cycles or not. They can they can do or not. That's what we test in accommodative facility. So accommodative excess and accommodative insufficiency is a different go. So we are testing basically accommodative excess and insufficiency with those other accommodative parameters what I have discussed, like the amplitude of accommodation, your NRA, your PRA, okay, and the MEM retinoscopy, right? And accommodative facility part is different. So whether the patient is having any accommodative infacility or not, that I can find out by the accommodative facility test. So the flippers accommodative facility test we can do with the accommodative flippers, and we can use a Ward-Rock card. Ward-Rock card we can use. So how does a Ward-Rock card looks like? So I'll just show you once. So this is a Ward-Rock card. You can see there are some 40 targets are there. Okay. So there are some nothing but these are like letters. Okay. So the patient has to hold the flipper like this in front of his eyes and put his stopwatch on, and then he has to do this exercise at home once we find any kind of accommodative infacility. Also we can use this Ward-Rock card while testing accommodative facility. How to do that? So we can put the stopwatch on, tell the patient before that, we will instruct the patient that once the letters become clear, I will tell me it is clear, so I will flip it. So first we use the plus lenses, and then we use the minus lenses, right? So suppose I am using a plus minus 1.5 flipper, so I'll keep the plus 1.5 first in front of my eyes or in front of the patient's eyes. Okay, the patient is holding the book at his reading distance. He is not going to change the distance, 40 centimeter. Okay, he is not going to change the distance. And so once he can clear, he will first see that letters blurred. So once he can clear, he has to tell clear. So immediately once he is telling clear, I have to flip the flippers. So when I'm flipping the accommodative flippers, what is happening? So first there was plus 1.5. Now the minus 1.5 lenses are coming in front of the patient's eyes. Now also another thing I noticed. So one cycle means if the patient can clear plus lenses, and again the minus lenses also he can clear. So one flip, he like the first he will clear the plus lenses. I'll flip the lens, flip the flippers, and then if he can clear the minus lenses, that means it is one cycle, right? So we are basically recording the number of cycles per minute. So in a 1 minute time, how many cycles the patient can complete, that we are recording in the accommodative facility testing. Also another thing we are seeing, another very important thing we are seeing, that how easily the patient can clear the plus and minus lenses. So suppose a patient can have difficulty to clear the plus lenses of flippers. He is taking maybe some 10 seconds, 20 seconds time to clear those accommodative flippers. It can also happen while you are flipping. So 20 seconds after the patient have cleared the plus lenses. So once it tells clear means you are flipping. So you are flipping means the minus lenses is now in front of his eyes. Now he can clear it immediately. So you are also noticing with how much ease the patient is clearing the plus and minus lenses. So when we are recording the accommodative facility findings, what we are recording? We are recording how many cycles per minute the patient can clear in 1 minute. How many cycles a patient can clear in 1 minute. Also, whether there is any difficulty to clear the plus lens or the minus lens. It can happen the patient can have difficulty to clear the plus lenses. So we will mention that difficulty with plus lens. If the patient cannot it finds difficulty to clear the minus lenses, we will write difficulty with minus lenses. Also, it can happen the patient is having difficulty to clear both plus and minus. So what may be the reason why the patient is having difficulty to clear the plus lenses? What may be the reason? If the patient cannot relax accommodation with that is how he can stimulate the accommodation. If the patient cannot relax the accommodation with that is, that time he will face difficulty to clear the plus lenses. So in case of accommodative excess, it can happen. So, so it is also an accommodative infacility. So any lenses he cannot clear or he finds difficulty. So it is definitely, we diagnose the case as accommodative infacility, and also we mention with which lens the patient is having difficulty. So we have to like thought or like plan our treatment. Suppose a patient is having difficulty to clear the plus lenses. So it is giving us an indication that the patient cannot relax accommodation completely. Okay, maybe he is having an accommodative excess. So we will give the flippers exercise, accommodative flippers exercise along with the rock card. Okay, along with this exercise, we'll also prescribe the heart chart to the patient. Okay, also we can give a plus lens therapy to the patient. Okay, if it is required, we can do a cycloplegic refraction, give the full plus, then he can definitely clear, definitely he will be much happy. Okay, if it happens that the patient finds difficulty to clear the minus lenses, so what may be the reason? So the patient may be not able to stimulate accommodation to that level, right? So how much it is required, he cannot stimulate his accommodation. So it may be associated with an accommodative insufficiency. So along with the flippers training, we will give the definitely the heart chart exercise to improve his accommodation as well. Okay, so this way basically we do. Okay, also we are discussing about the Vargin's flippers, sorry, not the Vargin's flippers I have discussed. So we are discussing about the NFB PFB testing. So how it is done, the NFB PFB testing, how it is done, negative fusional Vargin's and positive fusional Vargin's, we do it by the step Vargin's method. So step Vargin's method, so there is basically, you can see here, these are called the vertical prisms. You can see the prisms are vertically aligned. You can see the base of the prism is vertical, apex is also like this. So base and apex of prisms are aligned in vertically. So these are vertical prisms. So these vertical prisms, where it is used in those cases if the patient is having any vertical squint. These are the horizontal prisms, right? These are the horizontal prisms, you can see. So from one like from very small amount, it is coming to the higher amount. So this way it is increasing. So you can see how, because the base of the prism is larger in the last one, you can see. So that means it is increasing, the prism strength is increasing in steps. So why this is called step Vargin's method? Because it looks like a staircase. You can see there is as if there is a like staircase of prisms aligned in a lens bar, in a bar. So that is the reason this is called the step Vargin's test. Now when you put this prism base towards your nose, so that is the base in prism arrangement, base in prism arrangement. And when you put this prisms, base of the prism like towards the outside, the apex of the prism towards the nose, means the base of the prism is like to outside, that means it is a base out prisms. So this way we do the step Vargin's test. We do it both for distance as well as near. Okay, you can see here the patient is wearing her habitual correction, right? The patient is wearing her habitual correction. On top of that, we have to do the test. So first we will do the negative fusional Vargin's testing. Then we'll do the positive fusional Vargin's testing. Okay, another thing I missed out, accommodative flippers or the accommodative facility testing. we will do both binocularly as well as we will do it monocularly also. We'll cover one eye and see that whether the number of cycles is better with the binocular one compared to the monocular one. Okay, so we will be recording just 1 minute stopwatch you have to see. So 3 minutes you will be seeing. So 1 minute for the binocular one, 1 minute for the right eye, 1 minute for the left eye. So that's how you record the recordings. So in case of Varden's test, everything will be doing binocular, right? So if you are keeping this horizontal prisms, so in front of any eyes, that is doing your job. You can place in front of the right eye, you can place it in front of the left eye. That does not matter at all. So for the negative fusional versions testing, for the negative fusional versions testing, we keep the base in prisms. You can see this, the base of the prism is towards the nose of the patient. Okay, so patient is fixating at a 6/60 target or a 6/36 target in the Snellen's law, right? So for the negative fusional versions I am talking about. Now you are going to record the findings. Normally what we findings what we record is the blur, break and recovery. At what position the patient is having a blur, then at what position the fusion is breaking, the patient is seeing double, and then again how the patient is going back to the normal vision, that means a single vision. Okay, normally we measure these three findings: blur, break and recovery. So suppose there is a blur at 8 prism, so the break may be at 10 prism or at 12 prism. That means the patient is seeing, can see double at 10 or 12 prism. And again the recovery may be at 8 prism or a 6 prism or a 4 prism. So it depends. So that's how we record the findings. For NFV testing, for the negative fusional versions testing for distance, we do not get any blur value. Why? Why? Because normally we are supposed to relax our accommodation while looking at distance. So if your refractive correction is okay, if it is absolutely correct, you should be able to relax the accommodation. If you are a overcorrected myope or an undercorrected hyperope, we may get a blur value in testing the negative fusional versions. Okay, why? Because the patient, if the patient is accommodative anyhow, we will get a blur value. So if our refraction value is absolutely correct, we are not going to get any blur value. We are not going to get any blur value for testing the negative fusional versions for distance. So we'll only get a break and a recovery point. So we write x slash xy because there is no blur. So x slash the break value. Suppose the patient is having a break at 12, so break value, and then slash the recovery value, where he can again see the object to be single. Is it clear to all of you? Any questions, please do ask. Is it clear to all of you?
Ma'am.
Yes. Yes, Meena.
Ma'am, why preference is used first in accommodative facility, ma'am?
Sorry? Why?
Why placeless is used first, ma'am, in accommodative facility?
Yes. See, when we are doing the NRA PRA testing, if you can remember, first we are doing the NRA, then we are doing the PRA test. That means we are first relaxing the accommodation, then only you should stimulate the accommodation. Because like always in case of any kind of orthoptic evaluation test, whatever we perform in clinic, always we first relax the accommodation and then only we stimulate the accommodation. Why? Because once you stimulate the accommodation, to get back to the normal value, it is difficult. Okay. Suppose you have stimulated around 2.5 diopters of accommodation with the PRA test. So getting back to the normal value, like the normal stage of accommodation, that is difficult. So always in case of any orthoptic evaluation test, we always like do a like we are first we are relaxing the accommodation, then we are stimulating the accommodation. That's why only in the Flipper's test we will use the class lenses first, That means when we are using the plus lenses, the patient is relaxing the accommodation. Then we are flipping, we are using the minus lenses. Always we relax the accommodation and then only we stimulate. Same for this. Same for the Vargens test also. We will first diverge the eyes, then we'll make the eyes to converge. So that is the reason in the step Vargens test, you see we are doing the base, we are doing with basin prisms, because basin prisms is measuring the negative fusional Vargens. That means the divergence it is measuring. Okay. So for the negative, is it clear, Mina? Any question? Yes.
Clear, ma'am. But the negative fusional version we use only. I didn't clear about the negative fusional versions, ma'am.
Okay. Negative fusional Vargens, we are going to test with the basin prism. You can see how the prisms are kept. The base of the prism, these are the thick sides. So base of the prism, these are the base of the prism. So base of the prism is always kept inside. So that is a basin prisms, right? So if we keep the base of the prism towards the nose, that is the basin. So with this horizontal prism bar, right? With this horizontal prism bar, both we can test the base in and base out. So base in means we will keep the base of the prism towards the nose. Base out means we will keep the base of the prism outside. The apex of the prism will be towards the nose. So with the help of base in prism, we are testing the negative fusional Vargens value. Is it okay?
Ma'am, basin prism causes divergence, ma'am. Does
Yes,
it cause divergence?
Correct. Basin prisms cause divergence. Basin prism cause divergence. So here also the same thing. So we will first test the divergence, then we will test the convergence, because it is easy to get back to the normal state from divergence. So if your eyes are over converged, it will take much time to come to the normal stage. Same like that with accommodation. So we are relaxing the accommodation. So it will take much lesser time to come back to the normal state from the relaxed state of accommodation compared to the stimulated stage of accommodation. So we do the basin or the divergence test first. Okay. So for negative fusional Vargens for distance, we will not get any blur value. Why? Because accommodation is supposed to be completely relaxed. So we'll only get a break and recovery value. Break means the fusional Vargens is breaking, the fusion is breaking, the patient is reporting a double vision. Okay. So patient will just tell, so you will slowly move the prism bar like this. Okay, you can see from the lowest amount of prism, we will slowly move the prism bar like this. Okay, the highest amount of prisms are at the downside. So like this, you will be slowly moving. The patient will tell, if the patient sees a blur, the patient will say blur. So you note down where he is seeing blur. Suppose it is 8 prisms, so fine. Then when the patient see again double, so blur suppose at 8, then at 10 the patient is seeing double. Okay, so double means you will have to reverse back, right? So at 10 you are getting a double, so that is a break value. Right? So suppose at 10 you are getting the break value, so you will again reverse, means opposite side you will move to the lower amount of prisms. You will be getting a suppose a recovery at a 6 or a 4. So you will note down like that. For negative fusional Vargens, we do not get a blur value for distance. For negative fusional Vargens for near, when we are doing, definitely we will get a blur value also. So you can see here the patient is fixating at a near target. It is a pediatric target. You can see an animal target. These kind of targets we can use for pediatric patient. So as this test is purely subjective test, what your patient should be responding well. If the patient does not respond, means it is difficult to do this kind of test. Okay. So in case of a very small child, if you plan to do this step Vargens test, you cannot do. Instead, you can do a prism bar cover test. So you can see the movement of the eyes and judge when the orthophoria comes. So I'll discuss that prism bar cover test later on. That can be mainly we do it with the PBC. For the PBCT, we have different set of prisms. So mainly we do it in case of squint. Okay. So for this TF Virgins test is purely a subjective test. Is it clear to all of you? So for negative fusional Virgins, we are going to keep the prism's basin. Okay. And then after we measure the basin for distance and basin for near, then we'll keep the base of the prism to the opposite side and measure the base out prism value. So base out prism value is the positive fusional Virgins value. That means it is a convergence value. And now we have to correlate with the normal findings. In Schumann and Wick, there is a normal findings. If you want, I will share it with you. So with the normal findings, if you can correlate, we can find out whether the patient is having any kind of convergence or a divergence problem. So if the NFV is lower, that means the patient may have a divergence problem. If the PFV is lower, that means the patient may have a convergence problem. So always we correlate this NFV and PFV value with our NPC, what we have checked previously. Okay. Also, this to determine the correct amount of PRA value. So what should be the PRA value? See, for NRA, the normal value is plus 2.5. Okay. For PRA, there is no normal value. It depends on the PRA value. That means your positive relative accommodation. So the basin value, basin for near, will correlate with that, and then we'll see what is the base out for near. We correlate with that and find out what is the correct PRA value. So these are the tests for accommodation and Virgins that I have completed already. Any questions, please to ask me. Any questions from the accommodation and Virgins problems? Like how to test the whether the patient is having any Virgins anomalies or an accommodative anomaly. Any questions, please to ask.
Ma'am, which test is used to test accommodative spasm, ma'am?
Accommodative spasm, see, you can like accommodative spasm, first sign what you will get. You will get a higher amplitude accommodation you will be getting, right? So in NRA PRA value, you will get a very high amount of PRA value, -6 diopter, suppose you are getting. Okay, that means the patient is over accommodating. Also in MEM retinoscopy, the dynamic retinoscopy findings, you will get a higher lead of accommodation. Sometimes we can get a 0 or we can get in even in minus. So in case of accommodative spasm, mainly we can get in minus when we are testing the dynamic retinoscopy. Okay. And also in accommodative flippers test, what you will see, you can see that the patient cannot clear the plus lenses. The patient is almost unable, fails to clear the plus lenses. Also, we note it down like that. The patient fails to clear the plus lenses. That means the patient has stimulated the accommodation to the very higher level. Now he cannot come back to the normal position. So that means the patient is having an accommodative spasm. So he cannot relax his accommodation at all. Is it clear to all of you now? Yes? Any questions? See, we are running out of time here, so I'll end the meeting, and again you can rejoin with the same link. Please do rejoin with the same link. Today we'll discuss about the AC by A ratio, and then we'll move to the the accommodative and Virgins. What are the treatment options we should give? Any questions? Any questions? Please do ask me.